Welcome back in the shop tonight, tinkering around with more ATVs. We've got this little, it's an 86 Honda 70. I've got it sitting up on a jack stand because it's so low to the ground. It's hard to work on. I've had it on that alignment rack before, lifting it up, trying to gain access to work on it in previous videos. My boys have just about outgrown this four-wheeler, and we're stepping up to bigger stuff with the Yamahas, and this carburetor's been this thing's set for a while, and I cleaned the jets out. I've cleaned the jets out a bunch of times on this thing, but I've never taken the carburetor off. And you can get carburetors so cheap now. I just went ahead and bought one. And last time I cleaned the jet out, it ran, but just seemed like it didn't have any power. Like it didn't want to go. It would go, but very slow. Not like it usually does. So I'm going to switch the carburetor out and see if that is my problem. There's a nut on the back side. I'm just taking the air filter housing out. I think I'm going to try something first. I want to say I took the air filter out of this thing. I bet you that's why it has no power. That's exactly what's going on. Small engines typically are designed to have the air filter in place, the exhaust in place, and if you take one of those away or alter it, it can change the way it runs. You can lose a lot of power. I was, first time I kind of discovered this, I was working at a Volvo dealer in the 90s as a technician. And I was young, and I bought it was a 1983 Suzuki GS750T from a coworker. A little street bike, and it ran good. And I was a hot rodder, I always have been, so I was tinkering around the shop one day after work, towards the end of the day, and I pulled the air filter out of it and thought maybe that'll make it faster. So I pulled the air filter out and see if it'd gain any power, and it didn't. It fell on its face. And one of the guys that used to work with me, Mike Olroyd, rest in peace, he was a great motorcycle technician, and before he worked for many different motorcycle manufacturers. Did all kinds of stuff in the motorcycle industry before he started working back at the vault for Volvo. Anyway, he was like, "No, you can't do that. It's got to have the air filters in there, so you have to rejet to get your power back, or try to gain power with the airflow. So it screws everything up. You got to have it. It's got to have the right pressures coming in and going out." And when I was a kid, I had it was a 1981 Honda XL75, and I got it from a friend. Bought it. I don't know. We were always buying and selling and trading motorcycles and dirt bikes and stuff. And these weren't expensive, fancy dirt bikes. There's $100, $200 back then. So we'd cut some grass and buy a dirt bike at a yard sale or something. Anyway, so I got this XL75, and the muffler was missing on it. It was just a pipe. I mean, it had a pipe, but like the last half of the exhaust was the muffler. And that thing, you had to roll start it. It wouldn't kick start. And it would run fine once you got it started. But I rode it for, I don't know, a year or so like that. And I was so tired of push starting it that I got rid of it. I traded it off or sold it. I can't remember what I did with it, but I was later talking to the same guy, Mike, about that, and he said, yeah, it's probably because of that muffler didn't have the back pressure it needed, so it was more difficult to get it going. So it's these little engines are finicky. I think before I pull that factory carburetor off of there, because I know the jet was cleaned, I think I'm gonna get an air filter for it and see if it changes it, because the air filter fell apart. I pulled it out and I forgot I pulled it out. I slapped it back together and it set, and then we fired it up the next day or something like that, and it didn't have any power. So I'm gonna get an air filter before I go any further on this project, and see if that makes it run any better. If it does, then we'll find out for sure. Well, we know for sure that it alters it, and you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. So let's get us an air filter. All right, it's next day, so decided that carburetor that I ordered off Amazon is totally different style. It has the original one has a petcock mounted on the side of the carburetor. The one that they sent me does not. It has a regular fill through the top, like most carburetors do. This carburetor has a bowl design that has a petcock mounted straight on the side. I've got the bowl off because I pulled the jets back out. See, the petcock mounts right there. She turned the switch off. That's kind of an odd deal. It's got a fuel filter in there. I pulled that out. Pulled the petcock. Just want to make sure there's no trash in it. There's a little bolt cup deal that you pull out of the bottom of the petcock, and it did have some dirt in it. But I went ahead and pulled it down. It just screws up like that. So you can pull that off and pop that filter out. And check it, see if it's clogged up. But it's got a little corrosion in it. It's nothing, I mean, see, it's a little powdery crap, and that's what happens with this ethanol. It turns to corrosion in these things. And I've got the jets out, and I've got them soaking in some seafoam. I don't have any carburetor cleaner on hand. I always burn through that stuff. I thought I splashed the camera with seafoam. One of those jets is basically the way it works. Let me set this down somewhere. The jets sit in the bottom of the carburetor like this, and they're down here in the bowl, and as the motor's running, it's drawing air through the carburetor, and it's forcing Venturi effect. It's picking up fuel through this bowl and sticking it in. There's no fuel pump or anything like that. There's no squirters in a carburetor like this. So it's all based on vacuum. So carburetor, as air's going this way, the air filter housing's here, air's coming through this way, it's pulling fuel out of this bowl and spraying it into the engine. The throttle cable goes in here and it pulls. In this case, you can see down in there it has a slide, and that slide pulls up and down as you're doing the throttle with your thumb or your twist throttle or whatever. It's just pulling that up to let air through. That's all it's doing. Some of them have a flap inside, like that Grizzly 600. If you went back and looked at the video of that, it's got a flap or a butterfly. I always call them butterfly flaps, but this has a slide. So just a lot of motorcycles have slides like this. Well, I could make this work, but I need a new petcock design, and so I decided I'm just going to give this little carburetor another shot. I've cleaned it out a bunch of times. I don't know if I've ever cleaned that jet that's plugged on this one. It wasn't really hidden. I just I don't know. One of them has where you can put like an 8mm open-end wrench on it, or box in even. The other one's just a flathead, and I just don't think I've ever pulled that one out. It's usually pop that one main jet out, clear it out, runs fine, and runs fine for a while. The ethanol, though, I mean, it doesn't take but like a month or two, and it starts corroding this stuff up. These little jets are the holes. Let me grab one. The holes are so small in it. There's teeny holes in the side of that, and so the jet sits in there like that. It screws up into the bottom of the carburetor. This part is sitting in the bowl of fuel. So it's pulling it up through there like a straw, and this is up in there, and it sprays out in these little tiny holes and at the top hole, and it atomizes the fuel. These little tiny holes get plugged up really quick. This brass is not like ethanol. It just seals it up like very fast. The big portion, the straw section of the jet, I call it, it takes a little bit longer, but it's a pretty small hole too. Don't get me wrong. It looks big on that end, but on this end, it's pretty teeny. So the part that it's actually pulling through is about the size of a sewing needle, maybe less. So I've got some little drill, and I've showed these in previous videos if you follow me. I've got these little deals, and I usually just clean them out with that. This other jet is really clogged up. I've been trying to put these through it and it won't go. Here, I'll show you. Let's see. Stick it through. It's kind of bent because I've been forcing it, see? Stick it through like that. This thing is kind of like a file, so you can kind of clean it out like that. And then I work them, it'll barely fit in these side holes. It's bent so it won't go all the way through, but the hole goes all the way through on both sides. These little holes are teeny tiny. So I just clean them out on both sides. Sometimes you can get it to go all the way through. There's nothing to these little carburetors. If they're not like, if you watch that Grizzly 600 video, the carburetor on it was just full of sludge. It was almost like molasses. There was no way that one was getting cleaned out. It was trashed. And it had a little more parts in it than this little simple carburetor. So I usually do this with carburetor cleaner, but I don't have any on hand. I don't feel like going to the parts store. So I'll take my finger and I'll block at the end of it. I'll stick the straw in that end. You gotta be real careful because you'll shoot it in your eyes. See? That's how it itemizes it. That one's clean. I want to roll with that one. Set it on the seat right there. The other one, I cannot get it to blow through the main straw portion of the jet. So it's soaking, and hopefully I can get it to clear out because I don't have any jets laying around like that. I do have jets, but mainly for like a Holly 4150. I do have some motorcycle jets, but I don't have any like that. So we're gonna soak it for a little while. I'm gonna try some more cleaning it out. I even heated that little drill tap or whatever that thing's called, drill file, jet file. I even heated it up with a torch and chalked that jet up in the drill bit in my drill, spun the jet and tried to put that thing through there, but it just keeps folding up on me. It gets hot and it just turns to butter, really. It's very hard to clean that hole out once it gets harder to rock in there. Hopefully I can get it cleared out and we get this thing running. Air filter for this four-wheeler as well, but it's not gonna be here for like a week. So I had some aquarium filtration material and I cut a little section out and I put it in the air box so it'd have some sort of filtration in there. Hopefully that will help some. Like I said before, these carburetors, sometimes you pull an air filter out and it'll screw the whole system up. Changes the way it's designed and jetted and all that. So this one should be here next week, but we'll run that little filter that I made in there. It should be fine. I did run this thing earlier. I didn't video it with one clean jet and that other one was clogged. I drained the tank out earlier just to make sure the gas was good, because I swear this ethanol, especially in these little engines, it doesn't take any time for it to go bad. A month. You got to run the stabilizer stuff in it, and half the time I forget, or my kids will refuel it and they don't know to do it. So might have to just start putting a little splash of stabilizer in each can that I get from the gas station, so this stuff doesn't keep going bad on us, because we've run into the same problem several times over the last couple of years. So these guys just hadn't learned about that stuff yet. Boy, I wish they'd get rid of the ethanol in our fuel. And I know you can buy non-ethanol, but it's hard to find and it's expensive. But man, this ethanol sucks. All right, so I robbed the one out of the new carburetor with the wrong petcock. It came out of here. So it screws up in there. The other one's here. I already put that other one back in because we know it's good, it's clear. That's your floats. So fuel comes in, fills the bowl up, that shuts the fuel off. Lowers back down, opens it back up, fills the bowl back up, and it keeps going back and forth like that as it needs fuel. The valve for that is right there. It's the needle and seat. Very simple process. Here's your choke. Flip it up, it closes the choke. That's on run. That's it. All right, I'm gonna pop this back in. So I didn't even pull the carburetor off, I just dropped the bowl. Oops. Had to fish it out with a hook. No big deal. Just took a second. This little handy dandy deal right here lets you get into these tight spots. Can't see past the float. This thing's so dang low to the ground. Let me flip it up like this for a second. I don't know why I don't put a hex set on all of them. It'd be a lot dang easier. Alright, that's tight. You don't want to crank it down, just snug it. All right. Whew, I'll rest my back for a second. Got to get in a little bit of an awkward position and kind of hug the four-wheeler, get one hand on one side of it, one on the other. It's not a big deal though. You just pop those two jets back up. We're gonna stick the bowl back on, which is just 2 screws as well. It's not very riveting filmmaking, so you get the gist of it. This goes right back up with 2 screws, and I'll show you putting the petcock back on. It's no big deal. And we'll fire this thing up and ride it. All right, the petcock just bolts, screws right to the side of that right there. That's it. It's hard to film in this weird position down here on the floor, so I'm gonna pop this screw and this screw back in, and I can cut the fuel back on. We should be able to fire this thing right up. All right, I'm gonna lift it off this jack stand. Get that jack stand out of there, Caleb. All right. Turn the gas on. Give it a second, fill the bowl up. Always pick our tools up. I know it's fixed. We're not going to need these anymore, right?
Yeah. Just put them over there.
I know it's got compressor because we checked it a minute ago. It's sparking because it's coming out of the end of the spark plug wire. Well, it's shooting it out of the side of the spark plug there. Spark plug's light and good. When this thing's running right, it's usually like a 1 or 2 pull deals, and this thing, and it's on.
Took me 3 times, sometimes. I'm not as strong as you.
Woo. right, so that didn't go well. But it wasn't a big deal. I had to put the air filter back in it. I put a new spark plug in it, changed the oil. Oil was pretty old looking. Tuned the carburetor just a little bit. Runs fine now. I'll give you a little test hit real quick. Turn on the gas. Do not need choke. This thing's cold. First pull. First pull. This thing's been sitting for about 2 hours. Oh yeah. Haley loves it. All right, Caleb wants to ride. It's running pretty good. I'm 225 pounds and it pulls me pretty good. Caleb's about 110 pounds. It'll run a lot better with Jake on it. Huh? I said it'd run a lot better with you on it because you're lighter. Doesn't take as much power to pull. We're all too big for it.
It's so small.
I know, it is small.
I sit on that big 600 the other day. That's
Yeah.
so weird. All right, let me ride something.
I mean, it'll get trucking down through there.
Yeah, but it feels slow.
It doesn't climb the hill very well, with me on it at least.
Oh yeah, because you weigh like.
I'm 220, 225, something like that.
Well, you're also not like over six. You're also
Well, that thing's for
5'10".
like 5-year-olds.
I'm not 5. Probably right 7.
It's for like 5-year-olds, dude. It's for like 5-year-olds, 5 to 8-ish, something like that. But yeah, I mean, there's 5-year-olds that race. All right, there goes Jake on it. He weighs probably 75, 80 pounds, I guess.
I'll go about 25. Bro, I don't feel so light on that one.
Yep. All right, it's gonna wrap it up on this little video. So sum it all up, I robbed the jets out of that new carburetor that didn't have the right petcock on it. That one jet, I was having trouble getting it to clear. Even with heat, it didn't want to clear. I decided just to rob the jets out of the old car, or the new Amazon carburetor that I bought. So I just popped the 2 jets out of it. My main jet was, this jet was fine, but I just went ahead. I still had problems with it running after I swapped the jets, but it was because I didn't have the air filter in it and the oil was dirty. So it was stumbling, running like crap. Put jets in it. I changed the oil, changed the spark plug, put the air filter back in it. I made an air filter for it, like I showed you, out of that aquarium material, but I have a stock filter ordered for it. It's going to be a few days before it gets here. I've got a neighbor that wants to buy this thing for his children. They're about 3 years old, I think, so they're be a pretty good size for them to learn on. And then that's about it. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button if you like it. If not, I appreciate you watching anyway. Catch me next time. Thanks.